Again, welcome back, everybody. I'm Gary Norman. I'm with the Department of Solid Waste Management, where I'm a Deputy Director over Support Services. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate you choosing to spend your lunch break with us at our next installment of our Lunch and Learn series. Have you ever been confused about exactly how tree waste and junk waste works? What information do you need on that? How does that alternate back and forth month to month? We've got all kinds of questions and we've got all kinds of answers for you here today. But having a clear picture of what you can put out at the curb makes our jobs easier and improves the quality of life for all of our citizens. We have three subject matter experts with us today who are going to provide great feedback on that and provide answers to your questions. But before we get started, allow me to introduce Interim Director of the Solid Waste Management Department, Ms. Carolyn Wright. Ms. Wright, it's great to have you with us here today. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm great, Gary. How are you? And good morning, everyone. Well, good morning again, everyone. Welcome to our second Lunch and Learn series. We're very excited to have you here today to discuss the City of Houston's junk and tree waste collection programs. Again, I'm Carolyn Wright, Interim Director for the Solid Waste Department. I want to let you know you're in for a wonderful discussion on today. Three of our subject matter experts have the experience and knowledge to answer any questions you might have in regards to our junk and tree waste collection services. This pandemic has given us an opportunity to find new and creative ways to engage with the public through our Lunch and Learn series. It's a new tool we're using to help educate the public on our city services. As some of you are aware, April was a particularly heavy month for junk waste. This caused our crews to run a little behind schedule. They, with the help of our contractors, worked very hard. I'm happy to report we're all caught up with our junk waste collection. Thank you for your patience and understanding for those of you who are joining us that are not part of the solid waste team. And I want to thank our solid waste employees for the work that you do in making sure that we get the city clean and that we continue to educate our public on these services. Remember, if you have a question, drop it in the chat for this meeting. Gary and our team will make sure we answer your questions to the best of our ability. Again, I'm excited for today's discussion. Gary, why don't we go on and get started?
We'll do just that, Director. Thank you for your comments. A few housekeeping items. Let's begin with this to make the meeting flow more smoothly and to make the best use of our time together today. Please make sure that you're on mute, just so the sound quality stays good for everyone. We also ask that you keep your cameras turned off so that we can more easily record the event and edit it and get it put up onto our website. And again, like the director asked, please submit any questions you have to the chat feature, and we will follow up either here or personally on all questions that are submitted. Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump into this. Let me introduce our speakers today. We have two deputy directors with us today, Mr. Jeff Williams and Mr. Derek Mabane. And we also have Miss Elise Scott with us Elise Coffey here with us today. And she's the head of our community outreach program and always has a lot of insight into questions and information from the department. With that, I'll turn it over to Jeff Williams. Mr. Williams, tell us about what you do for the city and how long you've been with us. Think you're muted, Jeff.
That gets you every time, don't it?
It does.
Again, thank you, Gary. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Williams, Deputy Assistant Director for Northeast Operations. I manage the Kelly facility located off 59 in Kelly. We're responsible for the North operations for garbage, your household garbage, single stream recycling, yard waste, and of course, what we'll be speaking of today, heavy trash. We have the distinction here at the Northeast Service Center that we basically have two heavy trash operations in one. All of the North heavy trash is housed here at Kelly. So we basically service heavy trash from far east as Uvalde, far west out to Barker Cypress, and north Kingwood, all the way back down to Clinton Drive. Look forward to today's session, and I'll turn it over to you, Gary.
Thank you. It's good to have you with us, Jeff. And now we'll reach out and speak with Mr. Derek Mabane. Derek, thank you for being here today. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been with the city as well.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Derek Mevin, a 30-year employee of the City of Houston, and I'm currently the Deputy Assistant Director for the Southeast Quadrant. We handle garbage, yard waste, recycling, and of course, our subject today, heavy trash for the Southeast Quadrant, right at over 100,000 residents depend on us for service. I'll kick it back to you, Gary. Thanks.
Thank you. We also have with us Miss Elise Coffey. Elise heads up our community outreach program and really has her fingers on the pulse of the community. Elise, welcome to here today, and tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. As Gary has said, I take care of the community outreach section for the solid waste department. I've been with the city for 34 years, and I look forward to sharing with you guys today about heavy trash.
Great. Thank you, Elise. Tremendous amount of expertise and experience here with our roundtable discussion today. Well, let's go ahead and get this kicked off. Elise, I'm going to start with you. Elise, I've got kind of a loaded question here for you, if you don't mind. What can you tell me about the term heavy trash collection services?
Come on, Don.
Heavy trash is sometimes called junk waste or bulk waste, and it consists of things like furniture and appliances and bulky items.
What are you talking about?
This is
Don?
will
What
everyone please do?
Everyone, please check your phones. Make sure you're muted.
Heavy trash is heavy trash, which is also called junk waste. It is also called bulk waste. These items go to the landfill when they're collected by our crews. There is also tree waste, which is really just branches and limbs. It is not furniture. It's just branches and limbs. And the tree waste, when we collect it, is recycled. It's part of our effort to extend the life of our landfills and also to be more environmentally responsible.
Thank you, Elise. Oh, go ahead. You may be going to this already. How does this relate to illegal dumping?
Yeah, okay. So illegal dumping are items that are placed in front of vacant lots, at dead ends, on streets, on esplanades, not in front of residences. The solid waste department services residences. It does not service junk waste for commercial businesses, even when they subscribe to our garbage collection service.
Thank you, Elise. That's a really good opening. Okay, I'm going to throw this first question over to Derek, if you don't mind. Derek, what months are junk waste and what months are tree waste, and how did we decide on which was appropriate for that particular type of collection?
I'll take the first part of that question, Gary. The odd months are the tree waste months, and the even months are the junk waste months. I think Jeff can elaborate a little bit more as to how we got to that in 2008. Jeff, you ready?
I got you, Dick. I got you. The tree waste program, we went live back in 2007, where we started separating tree waste, natural trees, not wood, not lumber, not treated wood, not fencing, natural wood from your trees, tree branches, and limb. And we started recycling and mulching that. On average, you just take the FY21, we saved approximately $390,000 a year by separating that tree waste and recycling it, as opposed to sending it all to the landfill. And of course, the other part of that is that's less garbage that's going to the landfill. So we extended the life of that as well and helping the environment. The junk separated during the even months, and the tree waste, as Derek stated, in the odd months.
Thank you, Jeff. While I've got you, let's go ahead and continue there. What types of materials are acceptable on a junk waste month?
In a junk waste month, we take in furniture, appliances, bulky materials. All right. We will not take roofing shingles, bricks, plaster, concrete. And that's the stipulation that goes with those appliances, i.e. refrigerators, AC units that may still have the Freon in it. We're not to take that, right? Unless they're tagged by a certified technician stating that that freon has been removed. In the event they're not, then we want to take those because of the substance that's still in those appliances.
That's a really good point. So how would a person go about getting the freon removed? Would they have to contact an appliance repair person to remove it, or what would be the next step or process for someone that say has a small freezer they want to get rid of?
Exactly. They would have to get a certified technician stating that it has been expelled, and if it is, they also can take those small appliances to the neighborhood depositories, something I'm sure we'll be speaking about later on.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Jeff. Okay, Derek, I'll throw this one back to you if you don't mind. Let's talk about placement. Where should the material be placed? If I've got heavy or junk waste that I need to get picked up, where's the best place for me to put it in front of my property?
Gary, bulk waste can be placed at the curb in front of the residence. The waste should be placed at least 3 to 5 feet away from trees, plants, mailboxes, fire hydrants, light poles, or parked cars. It should also be clear of any overhead hazards, low-hanging wires, low-hanging trees. What this does is inhibit the operator's ability to grab the waste free and clear of hitting any of these hazards. So we want to make sure that they can grab the waste, maybe able to move it a little bit, and then put it in their trucks with ease without having to hit anything or damage anything else. In the event that this stuff is placed closer to these vehicles or mailboxes or anything of that nature, too close, it's placed too close, we will leave the pile because we don't want to damage anything while we're providing service to the citizen.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's expand on that just a little bit. Let's say I've got a ditch in front of my house. How does that play into it?
The material can be placed in the ditch, but we don't recommend it. But if that citizen does not have any right-of-way frontage, they can place it in the ditch, but understand that this causes an issue with us. Not only is the equipment limited to what they can grab out of the ditch, depending on the shape and size of that ditch, but also it provides a hazard, or it is a hazard for the employees that we have working around that area, that spotter. Some of that stuff we probably couldn't get out of that ditch if it's too deep or too wide.
Interesting. You know, I've seen some areas here in town that don't have a ditch, but a lot of times they will have a sidewalk and then a small grassy area next to the curb. It may be 2 or 3 feet wide. How does that come into play? How would I handle that in terms of tree waste or junk waste collection?
That area is called the right-of-way, usually in between the sidewalk and the curb. And we can use that for collection as long as it's not on the other side of the sidewalk going back toward the house, because then you get to the point where you extend the reach of that operating apparatus.
Makes sense. So bottom line, keep the sidewalks clear, keep the mailbox clear, keep it away from any type of hazard, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, Jeff, I'll throw this one back to you. Let's get back to what's acceptable in terms of collection. What about electronics? What should I do with electronics? I've got a large microwave that I want to get rid of. How would I deal with that?
A microwave, we again, the neighborhood depository, our environmental service center, citizens can drop those off just as easily as far as placing them out, instead of placing them out in front of their house. We will take those, but we have to be cautious and careful of those items that tend to have glass in them, because when the grappler hits those, that glass is going to shatter and break all over the street, creating another hazard. So we try to discourage anyone from placing glass items at the curb. But again, we have that depositories and we have that environmental service center where they can drop those items off.
Okay, interesting. So if I have like a glass door or something like that, or a window or a mirror or something of that nature, my best alternative is not to put that in the heavy trash or the junk waste collection, but to take that over to a depository. Is that would you say that's a correct statement?
Exactly. Again, for the obvious reason of shattering the glass, and we also be careful of the safety of the employees. When that glass shatters and breaks, if any one of those employees on the ground near that glass could get in their eyes, as well as leaving glass and resident on the street. Kids can come through. So yes, we really try to ask everyone to take that to those depositories themselves and keep it from creating another hazard on the street. If it will, Gary, as well, go back to Gary was speaking. Derek was speaking of earlier about the ditch. Here on the north side, we have a lot of older neighborhoods, in particular in the Fifth Ward and Denver Harbor areas. Those ditches have gas lines that run through them, and we hit at least one gas line and a water line a week from the citizens placing those piles in the ditches. So that's another thing why we're always, and understand on those side of town, they tend to don't have the sidewalks. So please be mindful of placing those piles in the ditches on top of those water lines and on top of those gas lines as well.
That's a really good point. Again, we don't want to cause a hazard anywhere. We also, we want to be careful also in terms of impeding drainage. So it's best to keep it out of the ditch if at all possible. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Absolutely. That's another factor with those ditches. It has to go somewhere. So that water can't flow. And between us trying to get the trash out of those ditches and Public Works keeping those ditches clean, it creates a problem. And it's going to make flooding come in those neighborhoods. So that's another great point as well, Gary.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, Elisa, this is a good place to throw a question back to you, I think. Okay, we talked about glass. We talked about mirrors. We talked about electronics and things of that nature. We also, what about things like paint and maybe some old oil or gasoline or something that I've got left over? What alternative? I'm assuming that's not allowable in our heavy trash or our junk waste collection. What is a good alternative to get rid of that type of material? What are your thoughts?
Well, you're correct. It should not go in your junk waste. It should be taken to one of our environmental service centers. We have two locations. One is on the south side at South Post Oak and South Main, and then on Netches at Jeff's Service Center on the second Thursday, I apologize. We have a collection center where you can bring things like small electronics, used motor oil, used cooking oil. Like when you have a big fish fry and you have all this oil, you can bring it there. All kinds of things, fax machines, small telephones. These items you can bring there free of charge, and paint is included, and it's very convenient for you to do that. You can also take these items to West Park, which is our West Park Recycling Center, which is on 59 South and Fountain View.
What are the hours of our depositories right now and over at West Park?
Our hours at the depositories and at West Park are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The West Park is open Monday through Saturday, and our 6 neighborhood depositories are currently open Wednesday through Sunday.
Thank you, Elise. And where could I go to find more information to maybe get a map of these facilities or get addressing?
You can go to our website, and they're going to put in the chat our website as well as our Facebook page and find all this information. And also on our website is an item called Trash Facts. If you print that out or read through that, it has all of our service locations, all of our requirements, and hours of operation in there.
That's a great publication. I appreciate you mentioning that, Elise. Hey, can you talk a little bit about, while I've got you, about the Reuse Center?
Oh, that's a wonderful place. Our Reuse Center is a location where people can donate anything related to an office or a building. For instance, doors, windows, doorknobs, lumber that's in good condition, and those materials are then given to nonprofits for free. The nonprofit organization just has to register and they can come and get things. We take a very small amount of brick, not much, but you can find tile, you can find all kinds of useful things, light fixtures, things that go in buildings. It's on North Main and off of North Main and Cross Timbers.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Elise. Tell me, while we've got you here, if I wanted your group to come out and talk at like a school group or something like that, or a scouting group, how would I contact you to check into that?
You can just request it through 311. We do presentations to all kinds of groups, and we have 3 mascots that we take to different schools, and it's a free service.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. Tell you what, let's get back to talking about bulky waste and tree waste. And let's throw this back to Derek right now. Derek, is there any reason that I couldn't place my heavy trash in the median? Seems like a good place to place it, good open area and easy to access.
It does. Looks like a nice clean area, wide open, but we don't recommend that. That's not something that we want to have our residents do. Once you place that trash in the median, it's unidentifiable. We can't connect it back to your residence. So let's say if something's wrong with that waste, it's got some hazardous waste in it or something, we'd like to be able to come back and tell that resident, but 9 times out of 10, if it's in the median, we can't identify that resident. It also encourages illegal dumping, and that's something that we definitely don't want to encourage. So anybody can come along and say, okay, well, there's a site, I can just throw this off the back of the truck and keep moving. And we know that happens from time and time again. We on the south side have 2 huge areas, actually 3, Martin Luther King, Belford, and there's a little area off of Cullen called Maury. And those have some very wide esplanades, and there's a continual dumping problem over there that we're trying to get some education in there to make sure that everybody knows exactly what they should and should not do with regards to putting heavy trash on the esplanade.
Appreciate that, sir. Here's a question. I see a lot of mattresses and box springs a lot of times out that are dumped. Is that something that can be collected during junk waste month?
Definitely. We do take mattresses and box springs. Those materials can also be taken to the neighborhood depositories, the ones mentioned by Elise as well as Jennifer.
Thank you. Yes, the neighborhood depositories are a great tool to kind of take the pressures off the neighborhood. And it's not quite, if it's not quite your time to drop material off or place it at the curb, they're open, they're accessible, and they take just such a wide variety of items. They're really, really a convenience to the community, and they're free. That's always a plus as well. Tell you what, Elise, can I throw something back to you? Just a thought came into my mind. Do you talk to me about the environmental service centers? That seems like a good place to drop off material that might be of a hazardous nature that we couldn't collect in the junk waste collection. What are your thoughts there?
Our environmental service center is located at South Post Oak and South Main. It's a drive-through service. You can bring antifreeze, batteries, used oil, paint thinner, pesticides, herbicides, household cleaners, up to 5 small electronic items at a time, scanners, fax machines, mice, cell phones. These items can be brought there, and their hours of operation are 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, Tuesday and Wednesday, and Saturday, the second Saturday of the month from 9 until 1. You can also find those hours of operation and list of items on our website.
Thank you, Elise. I've got a really good question here from the chat feature. It says, I went to recycle at one of our depositories, and they asked for a Texas ID and a utility bill. Can you speak a little bit about that and why we require that, Elise?
Usually at our neighborhood depositories, we ask for an ID and we ask for a utility bill, and that is to prove residency. You taxpayers in the city of Houston pay for this service, and so you taxpayers who live here should be able to use it. It's just to prove residency, so we don't have people coming from other places outside the city using the facility. If you're just going there to recycle, generally we only ask for your zip code, and that's so we can see what neighborhoods are using that service the most frequently. But you can also take concrete there. You can use motor oil. Everything that you put out for junk waste, Everything that you can recycle in your green bin, you can take there. And 2 of our locations also accept good, clean, used clothes.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Elise. Jeff, I don't want you to get lonely over there. Let me direct this question to you. It's kind of expanding on the concept of tree waste. We collect tree waste on our tree waste months, but what if there's like a huge storm in the middle of the month? How does that play into the collection of tree waste? How do we manage that, these off events?
A good question. We know getting the season now, all our fingers are crossed, hoping we don't have those events. The biggest thing we do with that, Gary, is we educate the public when those events happen. You know, you look back to Ike, it was more of a wind event, so we had a different type of material out. Harvey came along, it was more rain event, different type of material. So we asked the public just to be aware. We will be educating everyone when one of those events happens as to exactly what needs to be placed out and what pile needs to be segregated with what type of materials. So it'll be an education thing more than anything else when that event happens.
Okay, reaching out through the media and through press releases and what have you is what I hear you saying.
Exactly. Our social media site as well, and I'm sure Director Wright will be doing a few press conferences in the whole 9.
Yeah, if it gets to that degree, we will definitely be on TV and radio.
Exactly.
And so basically, that's a case-by-case basis then, depending on the severity of the storm, you'd say?
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Jeff. Elise, I'm going to come back with you on a depository question, if you don't mind. Here's a really good question from the chat. Are citizens able to leave their material at the gate of the depository centers or the ESCs, or if they've closed and haven't opened yet? Is that a good idea, just to pile that stuff up at the gate?
Absolutely not. That's illegal dumping. If we're not open, then you need to come at a time when we are open in both cases. We have a challenge sometimes at some of our depositories, particularly the blocks behind them, for people just leaving stuff because we're not open. That's illegal dumping. We would not encourage illegal dumping.
Thank you, Elise. And Jeff, I think I'll throw this one back to you because you're kind of our expert on what can and can't be placed out. Let's say I have a bathroom tub and a toilet and a sink that I want to get rid of. I've gone through every place. I want to set these out at the curb and get rid of them through Junk Waste Month. Is that something I can do, or how does that work?
Actually, Gary, those items, when they're on the porcelain side, that will be no, for obvious reasons. Once that grappler hits those items, they're going to break up and be kind of along the same lines of glass. If they were the fiberglass type, more or less, we probably could handle those. But those porcelain items, we ask that they aren't placed at the curb for the fact that they will shatter and break.
So if they shatter and break and become shards, it creates a safety hazard for anybody coming through that area. I would think at that point, especially if you're going to be mowing that yard later.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that. We certainly don't want to create a hazard for our residents or for our employees at all. Appreciate that answer.
Gary,
Derek, I'll throw one. Yes, ma'am.
I also want to add to what Jeffrey just said, and that is generally you have hired someone to come and put that tub in or replace that toilet. That's considered contractor work. And the contractor is responsible by ordinance to take those materials with them. And this includes people who come and cut your grass, people who come and cut trees on your property. Any contractor work, the contractor is responsible for taking that away, and you should not be putting that out for us to collect.
You know, at least you raise a really good point. In fact, it's a violation of state law for the city to subsidize a private enterprise like that. And so, yes, if it's a contractor generated material, I would think that they would need to dispose of it properly, which leads us to another question, Elise. What about if I've got a landscaper or gardener, he's come through and he's trimmed my trees up? What do I do with that material? How should that be handled?
The landscaper or the gardener should take all those materials with them. And if we pass a home and we can see someone cutting the grass and it's a contractor, we don't have to come back and get your yard waste because it was generated by a contractor. So they should be taking those materials with them.
Same principle applies then with regard to we can't subsidize a private business, correct?
That's right. That's right.
If I can add to that as well, Gary.
Please.
Our biggest deal with the heavy trash, in particular during the junk waste, the tree waste months. They all know we're coming. They know our schedule. So these tree cutters will come out and put trailer loads of trees in front of this house. And of course, expecting the city to subsidize that and pick that up. We're going to tag that pile as being over the limit, and we're going to call it in. The ladies in the dispatch office are going to do an uncollected service request that goes to 311, and we're not going to service that because we have a limit. And if everybody puts 40 cubic yards of trash out of their house, we'll always be behind. And so we have an 8 cubic yard limit with what's supposed to be out in front of each residence. And 4 of those cubic yards go to building material, right? Because you have folks that work on them houses themselves, but we do have a limit with what can be placed out of these residents, and that's been 8 cubic yards or less.
That's an excellent point, sir. Appreciate that. Derek, I'll throw one back to you here. I'm going to build on what Jeff said here. Can you give us a visual of what does 8 cubic yards look like? What would that equate to in something that people could visualize and see?
Thanks, Gary. 4 cubic yards, I know we're talking about 8, but 4 cubic yards is roughly a flat pickup truck bed load. So a regular pickup truck, the bed of that truck filled up to the sideboards. That's it. Well, no sideboards added, but filled up. That's 4 cubic yards. So 2 of those would be 8 cubic yards. Does that make sense?
It does. That gives a really good visual. So basically 8 full pickup truck bed loads. I'm sorry,
No.
2 full.
No.
No.
2. Thank you. 2 full bed loads
Dude.
a month during the collection would equal the 8 cubic yards, and that we would be allowed to collect.
That's correct.
Thank you, sir. And why do we separate yard waste and heavy waste? What happens to those 2 commodities after they're collected?
The tree waste.
Throw that in you, Derek.
I'm sorry. The tree waste goes to the, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it goes to Living Earth. Thank you. Living Earth Recycling Technologies. And so they take that over there and they recycle all of the tree waste. The junk waste actually is transported to the landfill, either to the transfer stations and then to the landfill or straight to the landfill. But the benefit is definitely recycling, as Lee spoke to earlier.
That's really a good point. Why is it so important to be able to divert that material and keep it out of the landfill?
One, as they spoke to earlier, is the cost savings. The second part is that we're trying to be good stewards of the environment. And so the more that we can divert from the landfill, the more time that we have on that landfill. Once that landfill runs out of airspace, we're going to have to get another landfill somewhere else. And so that's a bigger travel cost, bigger time cost to us, bigger cost to everybody in the city. So we want to preserve the landfill that we have as long as we can by diverting that, the tree waste back over to Living Earth. We can preserve that time at that landfill.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's making our precious landfill space last as long as possible. Here's a really good question from the chat, Derek. When we say regular pickup truck, what bed length are we speaking? We're speaking what type of truck? Not a dump truck, I'm sure.
Not a dump truck. I'm looking at a regular pickup truck. So if we want to get specific, we're talking about the medium length bed on a Chevy 1500 or a Ford F-150. I am not speaking of an 8-foot F-250 bed or an 8-foot Chevy 2500 bed. I hope that makes sense to everybody, but just the regular size pickup truck load. If you want to break it down even further, let's say you had a regular coffee table, the old school coffee table that's about 2 foot in length and 2 foot wide, and maybe about 2.5 feet high. That's about, right at about 2 cubic yards. Okay. So that being said, two of those would be 4, and 4 of those would be 8. Did I say that right? No, I'm sorry. 2 and 4. So two of those would be 4, and then you'd have the 8. I think that's
Thank you, sir.
Did that make sense, Gary?
It did. It did.
At
Basically,
least,
two pickup loads is what it equates to. Appreciate that. Yes,
Well,
Elise, do you have some energy around that?
Yeah, Boy has explained it's about a standard size 6-foot bed of a truck. That'll get you to 4 cubic yards.
That'll work. Thank you. Elise, while I have you here, I got another question from the chat I'd like you to address, if you don't mind. It says, I would like to take some items to the neighborhood collection center and have my water bill in hand. My driver's license uses a different address that is not a Houston address. Can I still use the neighborhood collection center if the driver's license address does not match the utility bill?
No, you have to have matching addresses on both. You can always bring somebody else with you in the vehicle who has a matching driver's license and utility bill, but if it doesn't match, you can't use the depository. Now, you can have a driver's license with an address on it, and maybe you don't have a utility bill, like maybe you're a student. You can use other things. You can use proof of rent. You can use proof of your home ownership. You can use, what do you call it, a license to shoot guns, whatever that thing's called. You can use that also as identification, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is ID required at a drop-off center if I just want to recycle rather than drop off bulky waste?
No, just your zip code if you're just recycling.
I appreciate that. Getting back to household hazardous waste, is that something I can drop off at the West Park Center?
I'm sorry, ask that again. Gary?
Getting back to household hazardous waste, let's say I've got something like a flammable, like kerosene or gasoline or something like that, or oil-based paints. Those come to mind. Is that something I can take to the West Park Recycling Center or the depositories?
No, we don't take any hazardous waste. We don't take, well, of the type you're describing. We don't take gasoline, and we don't take things that are flammable like that. We do take used motor oil, and we do take used regular oil. Paint thinner, pesticides, herbicides, household cleaners, but we don't take fire extinguishers, no.
Appreciate that. I have a really good question here. There's a suggestion. Is there a way to post a sign with the materials acceptable at the West Park Recycling Center? That way we know what other things we can and can't bring.
There is a sign there that says what can go in there is a sign outside at West Park. There is a sign.
Appreciate that, Elise. Okay, and Ms. Wilkins, our fabulous PIO, has just dropped some information in the chat that we can be posting later as well about locations and addresses and what is acceptable. Appreciate you doing that, Tyra. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll be happy to address them. And what am I missing here, Elise?
I think you've covered everything. Jeff, Derek, do you think there's some other things we need to talk about related to junk waste collection?
I think we touched on the bigger points of it. Placement, we didn't talk about placement, but it's okay to place your junk waste or tree waste out after 6 p.m. the Friday before and before 7 a.m. the day of your collection day. I want everybody to know that exactly when it's time to put your tree waste or junk waste out.
Correct, you're right.
Appreciate that. I got a couple other questions here from the chat. Let me throw these out if you don't mind. Let me throw this one to you, Derek, if you don't mind. It says, my neighbors and I set out our waste in the odd and even months and seem to do a pretty good job. This month, my neighbors set out their tree waste just a day or two ahead of schedule to pick up, and it's still there. This week, we put the junk waste on top of it, and now we have a mixed waste pile. Excellent question. What is being done to address inconsistent collection, and how can we go about making sure we are not leaving waste at our curbs indefinitely? Will we pick up a mixed pile? Can you talk a little bit towards that end, Derek?
I can. So unfortunately, that winter storm we had, it's not like a storm we've had before. 9 times out of 10, you'll have a storm come through, be it a flooding event or a tornado or a hurricane. You'll see the damage almost immediately. Sometimes you have light flooding events where the damage will come out. You'll start seeing people put stuff out maybe a week to 2 weeks, or after the insurance agents are able to come by and assess the damage. With this winter storm, this was a delayed effect. And so it definitely took us by surprise when in April, it took us 2 months for the most part to get through our junk waste collection. That's how much tree debris and debris was out there. That being said, we're actually foregoing the green waste, pretty much what you've already stated. So as we are now, we're now starting to gear up for the junk waste collection for June. Going through there, we're going to try to make sure that we take everything. We're going to take those commingled piles. We understand that some people still had tree waste out, and then they'll have some of the junk waste out. We're going to take those commingled piles and try to take as much as we can to get through this next month. But it's going to be tough. And so we ask for your patience as we try to pick this up. From what we've seen already, the volume's already up close to or definitely near those April volumes. You're picking up 2 months of waste at the same time. So please be patient with us, but yes, we should be picking that up. If you have an issue or concern that they're not going to pick yours up, please just call 311. Let us know. That'll put you on our radar to make sure that we ride by there and check that pile. If there's an issue, we may come talk to you or may put a tag on it. But other than that, we're going to try to pick up everything we can as we go through this June junk waste month.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. Another good question from the chat that I will address to Elise, if you don't mind, ma'am. It looks like they brought a desktop printer to the West Park Recycling Center and was turned away because it was deemed to be office equipment. Can you talk a little bit about office equipment, and do we collect that at West Park or our recycling centers? And if not, what can be done with those?
We don't accept office equipment at West Park. And I would suggest that they go to Earth 911 to find out where they can recycle those items. Our service centers are set up for residences, not for businesses. So there are some limitations on what we will accept and how many of a thing we will accept. For instance, we don't accept but a few, like you cannot bring us 20 computers. You can bring maybe 4 or 5 computers, but it is for households and not for businesses. All of our services are geared that way. So if you don't know how to recycle it or you've been rejected at our ESC, just go to Earth 911 and it will give you locations where you can recycle those items.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Jeff, I don't want you to get lonely over there. I got some other questions about what may or may not be acceptable into the heavy trash program. Can we talk a little bit about tires? How many tires can we collect? Do they need to be rimless, or how do we handle tires in that program?
Each citizen can place out 4 car tires, right? And those 4 tires need to be rimless. Can't place them out while they're still on the rim, right? Also, you can take those same tires to one of those neighborhood depositories. They will accept them as well. We do not take tractor trailer or truck tires. Okay, 4 tires per household, and you can take those tires to one of the neighborhood depositories as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Here's a really good question. Just I'm going to leave it with you, Jeff, if you don't mind. May I ask what to do with tree waste? Is there a place where the yard people or any resident can drop off tree waste to use as compost?
They can take tree waste as well to the depositories. They can take, Maurice used to have a bin set up and they can put that tree waste over there as well. And usually what happens is he'll call, when we get some time at the service centers, we'll come over and haul that tree waste out for them, but they can. The depositories are there. And if we're behind, citizens can grab what they have in front of their house and take it over to those depositories just as well as we can come through and pick that up. So it's a resource there. We just ask everyone to use it. That's what it's there for.
Appreciate that, sir. And Elise, I'll throw this one back to you. It says, is there a place where yard people, I'm assuming that means a commercial yard technician or a company, can take and drop off material? How do we, can you talk a little bit again about how we address that?
I don't really have an answer to that, Gary. I don't know if Living Earth accepts commercial yard waste or not. Derek, do you or Jeff know the answer to that one? Because the depositories are not for commercial businesses.
That's the one answer we do know. They cannot take it to those city facilities.
Right, they can't bring it to us. Yeah.
That's a business thing. They have to, we're not here to subsidize those businesses. Those are for the residents, and household residents, not businesses.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really the point I was looking for, that we cannot subsidize a private business. And so if it's a private business, it's a fair statement that they need to be handling their own disposal costs rather than putting it out for the city. Our services are for residences, correct?
Yes. And if I could add one, Gary, I know we talked about placement. I want to reiterate this one because I'm sitting here at my desk and I got a property damage on my desk in regards to heavy trash, and it's a water meter. Right. So I asked the citizens, when the crews pull up, they have no idea what's under that pile. And oftentimes you have a citizen that'll set that pile on top of a water meter. We've actually had one that have actually covered up a fire hydrant, and we have nowhere knowing that fire hydrant is in that pile. And when they go to grab that pile, we got water going 50 feet in the air. All right, so.
Appreciate that, sir. We definitely don't want to cause any other problems for our residences or create a safety hazard.
Right.
Hey, we just got some information here in the chat from Sarah Mason, who's the head of our recycling group. And it says lawn companies can also go to Living Earth or other compost facilities to drop off that yard material. So I think there's a great answer there. Derek, I see you have some energy around this.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Living Earth does accept that. Their website says that they take clean brush, leaves and grass, untreated wood waste, stable bedding, and vegetative material, produce, and breads. So they will take some of that material, but I definitely recommend that anybody who wants to know about that could contact Living Earth or look at their website and see what they have to offer.
Thank you. It's definitely well worth a call to Living Earth Technology, that's for sure. Okay, well, we are coming to the end of our questions here. I'm looking for other things in the chat. If anything has anything else, they're welcome to put it in here. I do have another question about mattresses. Derek, while we have you up, can you talk about mattresses again? I know we addressed it earlier, but mattresses are acceptable into our junk waste program?
Yes, our junk waste, anytime you have a junk waste month, you can put your mattresses and box springs out. We also can take them, we take them at the depository. So you can take them over to the depository, drop them off at one of the 6 depositories citywide. Take it, get rid of it at your own convenience, or either put it out for your junk waste collection.
Thank you, sir. Elise, if I can go back to you, here's a really good question here in the chat. It says, do you have a flyer that you can leave on properties who put out tires, TVs, et cetera, that tells them you won't pick it up? Just for general information, what is it? How would I get a hold of those trash facts?
Well, you can let me take the first part first. No, we do not have flyers that we leave on doors. If a pile is not acceptable for tree waste or junk waste, our crews will put a tag on it that if it's over the limit, they'll tag that. If your your garbage can is turned the wrong way, we'll tag that. But we do not have the ability or staffing to go around and put information on doors. You can get the trash bags and all our information on our website, which is in the chat at houstonsolidwaste.gov. And it will tell you all of our requirements and the things we do and do not accept and the frequency of our service provision for all things.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Okay, looking through the questions here, let's see if I've got anything else we can address here quickly in the amount of time that we have left. Here's a really good question. Jeff, if you don't mind addressing this one, can we just put junk waste into our black trash can? Why not do that?
Junk waste into the black trash can? That would
Yes,
be
sir.
no. That would be no. Only your household garbage, food type waste should go in that can. If the driver comes up, the automated driver, and he or she notices that junk waste is in there, they're going to tag that can, and they're not going to service it. And that's to include yard waste, because we also find yard waste in those cans. It's not allowed in those cans.
Appreciate that, Jeff. Can I put out old lawnmowers on junk waste?
Old lawnmowers?
Yes,
No.
sir. Like lawn or weed eaters and things of that nature?
No, it's subject to have fuel still in it. So the answer would be no. We've had trucks actually caught on fire. I just had one day before yesterday, they caught on fire because of something being in that can that shouldn't have been in that can. So gas, some flammable type material, we can't put those in those trucks.
Appreciate that. That's a great answer. Again, we don't want to create a hazard for residents or for our employees at all, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that's really about all the time we have left. Any issues in the chat that we did not answer or get to, we'll definitely respond directly back to you. At this point, what I want to do is thank everybody for being with us, thank our panel of experts, and I'll turn it back over to Director Wright for some closing remarks here. Thank you all.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, our experienced panels of experts from the department. And certainly I want to thank the public for being a part of today's Lunch and Learn series. This was super exciting. I hope that we were able to answer your questions, address your concerns. Certainly if we did not, as Gary stated, we will address you directly. And in addition to that, we want to ask if you would submit any questions at swdworks@houstontx.gov. We'll try to answer your questions as well. You know that we talked about the delayed services that we've experienced the last couple of months. We just ask for continued patience from the residents as we're doing the best we can. I assure you, believe me, our dedicated men and women are committed to doing the best job possible in serving the residents of Houston. So we're short on drivers. We compete with the industry. If you know anyone who is looking for a job, we're looking for qualified, experienced CDL drivers. Please tell them to join this wonderful team. We have exciting benefits. Solid Waste is one of the best departments in this city to work for. So again, we're looking for drivers. We want to look out for that and ask everyone to please join our team. If you know someone, let them know that we're looking for them. Remember those odd and even months, as we talked about today. And I want to mention also that if we, again, were not able to answer your question, SWD works at HoustonTX.gov. Follow us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Thanks again for your time. It has been an exciting event. Have a wonderful rest of Thursday. Thanks, everyone. Have a great holiday weekend as well. Be safe.
Thank you, Director. Appreciate the words. Yes, everyone, thank you for tuning in. If we can answer any questions, it's email us at swdworks@houstontx.gov, as the director indicated. Liking us on Facebook is a great asset for you. Visit us on Twitter and Nextdoor. Again, thank you all for tuning in, and go make it a great day. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary and Carolyn.
And I thank you all. Solid Waste subject matter experts. Great job, team Solid Waste. as always. Thanks.